Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my podcast and author's advice. My name is Timothy Horne. I'm here with my brother, John Horne, and today's topic we're going to be talking about is how to put together a series for your books that you're working on. So, hello, John.
Hello, my name is John Horne. I'm Tim's brother. And my first question for you, Tim, what advice would you give to someone when they first writing their series, or first series?
Well, I would say, first of all, you have to look at the story as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So, how are you going to do the first book? And then break that up into the second book and the third book and however many books you want to have in your series. Look at the story as a whole, because it's important to do that and look at them as individual pieces. Each book is a piece of the puzzle that furthers the story. So the characters have to have the same storyline in the second book and in the third book and so on. So my advice would be know your story. How long do you want to take it? How far do you want to take it? And plan it out.
Okay, my next question. How do you stay motivated to keep a series going?
Well, I think that you as the writer need to have a plan for an ending eventually. Like, say you've gotten 4 books in and you're getting tired of this series, you want to start another project maybe, or you just want to take a break from it. I would say have an ending in mind, have a set number, like I want to stop at 5 or I want to stop at 6. Another point to add on to that, I would say would be don't close the door ever on a story. Because say, for example, you write 5 books, you end the series, and then 5 or 10 years later, you get this really great idea to continue, and if you've already closed the door, then you can't revisit that series. But if you leave the ending kind of open for the potential of a new series or following up on an old series, you can do that. But you also don't want to make it so that you're expected to continue the series. Like, make it so that it's an ending where it's like if the story had to end that way, it could. Or it could continue, depending on what you want to do, because that gives you that freedom to either pick it up or not pick it up, depending upon how you feel about it. Another way you can tell if a series should be ended soon is public opinion, because if you are getting people who are just buying your story left and right and they love it, and you obviously want to capitalize on that, and you want to keep writing. But if people are kind of growing tired of it, the ideas aren't as fresh and good as they used to be, then I think you'll just kind of know it's time to start something else.
Yeah, okay, so that's cool. So my next question is, how do you choose a topic or characters?
Well, it all depends upon what your writing style is. What are you trying to write? Are you writing sci-fi fantasy? Are you writing a detective series like I did? What is it that you want to write about? What time period is your story set in? What is it set in fiction? Is it set in more historical fiction? It's like, what is it that you're writing about? And that'll be able to help you pick your characters, create your plot. Just everything that circles around your story is, what are you wanting to write about?
Okay, so my next question for you, Tim, how do you expect your series to connect with your readers?
Well, you have to have your target audience in mind. So, for example, if you're writing a series for a younger group of readers, like, little kids versus adults, you can connect with your readers by, just knowing who they are. So if you're writing an adult-based series or, say, middle school, high school-based series, you're going to want to market your series and fashion it more to that reading level. If you're writing a children's book or a children's series, you're going to want to market it to the parents of the kids and the school teachers and the kids themselves who are in that age range. So you'll know based on your series, based on your age range, based on, who do you think would like to read this series, You'll get a feel for it when you start writing and getting it published.
Okay, Tim, so my next question is, How do you know when to end a series and how many books?
Well, as we talked about earlier, John, I think that when you'll know as a writer, like when you first start writing, you have all these ideas and all that you're excited. And as you start putting them down, getting the stories out there, maybe the ideas will start to come a little harder, get a little less excited about certain ideas because you can only write the same story so many different ways. So if you're just doing the same thing over and over, you're using the same ideas, same characters too much, you kind of get a feel that you need to take a step back. And again, too, it also depends upon your readers. I mean, if people are loving your stories and they're loving your series and they're asking for more, obviously it's not a good time to stop. You want to keep producing more because they'll read it and they'll buy it. But if people have just kind of lost interest in it, you either need to come up with a better way to write that series, a fresher perspective, or you just need to come up with an ending altogether and start with something else. So you just kind of have to read the room, so to speak, and just get a feel for, where's your audience at? Where are you at? Because at the end of the day, when you're writing a story, it should be an enjoyable and fun process, something you're pouring your heart and soul into. If it's something where it's like it's no longer fun for you to write it, or it just kind of feels like you have to write it just to get that story out, it's time to take a step back and work on another project or just take a break from that series.
To expand on that, Tim, how many books have you written over the years?
As far as a series go, I have a detective series with 2 detective novels in it right now. I do have some ideas for a third one. Nothing I have actually gotten concretely started, but so right now it's just the 2 books. It follows the team of detectives who solve cases, and the idea of the series is each book is a different major case that they're working on, but the overall story flows together between the books. So that is, as far as I'm concerned, that's the only series I'm working on right now.
And also, how many years have you been doing writing for, Tim?
I got published in 2020, so about a little over 5 years. Another thing, speaking of years, that I would like to add when working on a series is that the time frame in between books. And I'm not talking about like literal timing. I'm talking about like in the storyline. So like if you have book 1, how many years is it going to take in place between book 1 and book 2? Is it going to be immediately heading into book 2? Or is it going to be, there's going to be a couple year gap for the characters where they're going to have this untold storyline in between book 1 and 2 where they grow and change. So you have to plot your timeline when you're writing a series. And it has to be something where the readers can understand what's going on and what has transpired in your plot and your timeline, both during the books and in between the books.
Okay, Tim, so what are the names of all your books?
As I said, the detective series, Detective Davis and the Swamp Bandits, Detective Davis and the Cold Case are my 2 detective novels that I have published. So, to add on to that too, now this is more for writing the series more so than, like when you're first starting. You have to keep, in my opinion, very good notes, because if you write something, say in book 1, for example, and then you're writing book 2, you can't contradict yourself. So like, if you have a character that did something in book 1, you can't say they did something completely different in book 2 because it's already in book 1. So you got to make sure that you as the writer are keeping very thorough notes and that your flow of your story works well together. Because if you as the reader or the writer is getting lost, the reader's not going to be able to follow it either. So you have to make sure your series flows well between the books. It makes sense. And of course, like I said, you don't contradict yourself in a later story, which depending upon how many years it takes you to write in between stories, can be very difficult because you may not remember things. So, just like I said, keeping good notes and knowing where your series is going is very important.
Hey Tim, so where can you order your books from?
So, all my books can be found on Amazon. And I have my website and everything, so you can definitely find my books there. But yeah, I would, if you are a writer and you're thinking about writing a series, I would definitely encourage you to do so because it's very fun. In my opinion, I've enjoyed my series. It's a very rewarding process because writing one book is good, but being able to have a chain of books that you wrote, it's really cool. Another thing I'd like to add on to that is this is more so about the publishing process and the writing process is I made this mistake myself. Make sure that the covers match up well. I had an original book cover on my detective series that didn't match the second book, so when I republished, I redid the cover so it matched. So you're definitely going to want to have a strong matching cover on the book so that people can tell that they came from the same series. So you can just pick up the book and you can look at it and say, oh, I can tell these books are, connected in some way. So even if the names of the books are different, like, having similar pictures, maybe a color scheme, appearance, they say don't judge a book by its cover, but, the cover is the first thing someone sees if they're at a bookstore or they're somewhere and they're picking it up to look at it. That's the first thing they see. So you want to make sure that your cover represents your story well, and like I said, if it's part of a series, that it matches the other books in your series, and that way people can easily identify that as is your series, and it'll have a nice look to it too. But yeah, definitely having consistency in your storyline is very important.
So my next question for you, Tim.
Yeah.
Are your books recommended to a certain age range, or is it just for like adults and kids?
All my books are represented different age ranges. You can, like I said, my detective series is more of a middle school, high school level read, but I've had adults who have liked it as well, and my children's book is more for an elementary level read. But yeah, so that is, I think, all the questions that you have, right,
That's
John?
about all that I have for you, yep.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for tuning into this episode today about series. I hope that you were able to learn something. And remember, if you have a topic that you would like to reach out to me about and have on this podcast, you can contact me via my website and social media. I'd love to have a talk with you guys about it. And thank you guys for joining us today.
All right. Bye, everybody.